Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest. Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
Hey, this is your host, Elia Einhorn. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Talkhouse Podcast. Today's show is a very special one for two reasons. One, this is our 250th episode. The Talkhouse Podcast has now been in the world for 5 years, and I speak for everyone who's part of Talkhouse when I say thank you to the millions of listeners that have tuned in and made this possible. Here's to many, many more years of fantastic artist-on-artist conversations. Now, the second reason that today's episode is so special is this is our first ever Mother's Day edition. And to help me introduce it, I want to welcome to the show
Nick Dawson, Editor-in-Chief of Talkhouse Film. Yes, it is me.
Welcome back to the show, Nick. Now, tell the listeners what we've done here.
We've put together some of our favorite clips of artists talking about mothers and motherhood. And, you know, it's a very special day, Mother's Day, and this captures some of the wonderful ways in which, you know, art and motherhood intersect.
I think of Mother's Day as very bittersweet myself. I lost my mom when I was a teenager, and of course, I'm reminded of that every year. On the other hand, now that I have a daughter with my wife, Amy, each Mother's Day is a celebration of everything she does for the baby every year and for our family.
Yeah, Mother's Day is very poignant for me too. It's actually 2 years today that my mother passed away. And yeah, I mean, I have a kid and an awesome wife. And yeah, Mother's Day is a very happy day, but there's also that sense of loss as well, inevitably.
Yeah.
While, of course, a lot of listeners kind of will share that same sort of bittersweet feeling about Mother's Day, we're not going to get you too down with this. This is predominantly a fun and sort of heartwarming episode.
We're bringing you some roses and a box of chocolates.
For Valentine's Day and for Mother's Day.
Some of the fantastic artists featured on today's show: Tori Amos in conversation with Shirley Manson of Garbage,
Fred Armisen talking to Alix Lambert,
Ben Lee and John Cryer,
the filmmakers Tracy Druz-Tragos and Martha Shane, and we have a special appearance from the awesome animator Julia Potts' mother.
Nick, tell us about this very first clip that's coming up.
Right, this was recorded at Sundance 2 years ago. We had a really awesome live event at the Kickstarter Lodge in partnership with Kickstarter. And these two really fantastic Korean-American filmmakers, Christina, Choe, and Andrew An, who are great friends from LA, they sat down and had a chat. Christina had this amazing movie, Nancy, which came out last year, and Andrew An is best known for his 2016 movie, Spa Night, which is also a Sundance alum. And it was one of those funny things where, as with so many Talkhouse podcasts, we don't really know where it's going to start. But Andrew and Christina had a very clear sense of where they wanted to start.
You sure did. Should we roll it?
Let's roll it.
Should we start by talking about your mom?
Oh, I knew it was going to go there. Sure. We have a long history of my mom and Andrew An.
We do. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
I was telling you about Spa Night and how I was having trouble finding a mother character. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, my mom's great.
Yeah.
Was she in The Queen?
Well, yeah. So my mom was in the short film that we first met, The Queen. And, you know, I casted her out of necessity. I was like, where am I going to find a 6-year-old Korean mom, you know, that can speak Korean and English, that can act? Nowhere. Like, I think I remember trying on what's that breakdown services, like the really low
Actors
budget.
Access.
Yeah, just Actors Access is really just, you know, whoever's acting. And it was just there was nobody. So I just had this hunch because my mom used to act in school plays, and she's really extroverted. And I just was like, I think she can do it. She just has to be a more annoying version of herself. I mean, as an overbearing Korean mom. Just kidding, Mom. And, you know, I just this is very unfiltered. And then I just had her audition in my room or something. It was very unprofessional. I was
for the Queen.
Yeah, for the Queen.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I think she could do it. And then you know, she ended up being a one-hit wonder. She would just kill every scene. And
she was great.
Yeah, she was great. So then, yeah, you were like, I need to cast this mom for my feature film. And I recommended my mom. And
then you had her tape.
Yeah. So then I had her tape herself, self-tape. And I wasn't I wasn't in town. I couldn't do it. So,
I think your dad taped it, right?
So my dad taped her on an iPad, doing the lines. So you sent the sides to me. I sent it to her. I didn't give her any information, just like do it. And the first take was really bad. She just like was reading the lines like to herself because like she didn't have a reader with her and she didn't know that she should do that. So she's just basically like talking to herself in the scene. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to give her some notes. So I like gave her some notes.
I know Christina was like her manager.
I was like her manager and her agent and her acting coach. I like really wanted her to get the part. So then like, I told her like, you got to get dad to read the lines, like somebody, because it's just weird if you're talking to yourself. So my dad, who's like so not extroverted, he's like really monotone and just like very, like typical stoic Korean dad. He like reads the lines and it's like, it's so funny because he's like, how are you doing? And then my mom like does her lines and like she was, I think she was like, she did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you can tell us why you didn't cast her. And then I'd be texting. I texted.
Oh my God.
I would
kept texting.
Yeah, I was like crazy, like, agent. I was like, Andrew, what's the update? What's happening? Are you casting her or what?
It was really, I got nervous. I was like, Well, I mean, we had reached out to people in Korea and had found Hedy Kim, who was just like so awesome, and we really loved her.
Ended up, when I saw the film, I was like, oh, she's way too old for this part.
I mean, there's, it's like your mother's like older than the character.
Much older. Yeah.
Your mom is going to be so angry at this podcast.
Apologies to Mama Choe there, but that clip was so great. And actually, if you dive into that episode, there's even more Mama Choe stuff in there for you to enjoy. So, get a knife and fork and tuck in.
Continuing our Mother's Day extravaganza here, Nick, the next conversation is between two icons of 90s alternative music who continue to make vital music to this day. I'm talking about Tori Amos and Garbage's Shirley Manson. Now, this episode came out in November of 2016. The occasion was Tori's Boys for Pele deluxe reissue, and Garbage had just released their new LP, Strange Little Birds. This talk took in a lot, but in this particular clip, they talk about the sacrifices and uncertainties of motherhood, and Tori talks about what it's like to be a mother herself and about the continuing inspiration she receives from her own mother.
Should we play the clip?
Let's do it.
The other thing I was curious about is as, your daughter has grown up, I guess it sticks in my mind because of, like I said, the last time we met, I can really remember it as if it was yesterday in Wagamama's in London. we knocked into each other in line. And I was curious how, because I'm not a mother, I didn't have children, I chose not to, but I'm curious how, having a child, being her protector in the world, how that has changed your work. It must change your work, particularly as we both, grow up and get older. And I know that even as a woman who has chosen not to have children proceeds as an artist, things change. But that must really accelerate in some ways that maybe that growth or that desire to explore further when you have a child or children.
Well, Shirley, the thing is, to be really honest, being a parent isn't for everybody. And there have been people that...
I absolutely agree with you wholeheartedly.
There are people that come up to me, that come to the shows and just say, I know people who really aren't happy being parents. And that might surprise people listening, but it isn't for everybody because it is a life changer. It really, really is. And if you don't want your life to change, and upside down, then it might not be for you because you do need to put them first, and not everybody, not everybody wants to do that. So I feel like for me, being a mom, as we know, it doesn't come with a instructions. And I get it wrong a lot of the time. I do. I get it wrong. So
of course. Well,
it's
everybody
humbling.
does.
I mean, it can be really humbling because you sort of say, gosh, I wish I hadn't said it that way. I wish I hadn't done that. And you do see yourself acting like your own parents. And sometimes like, I can't believe I just did an Ed Amos on my kid. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah, but your parents weren't artists, correct? You didn't grow up in a household of artists.
No.
You?
No. My dad.
And your father was a minister.
Yes.
And your mum? Did she work?
She didn't. She would say we were her work. And you know what? We were.
Yeah.
I think being a homemaker is so challenging and difficult because she had wanted to have a career. And I saw that through my life. She was she left college to support my dad. And that's a different time. Those amazing women in our lives, and I'm sure you've known many women like that who put their career aside to bring up the family. And without my mom, I wouldn't be talking to you right now because she's the reason I didn't go absolutely insane.
Yeah. Are your parents alive?
Yeah, they are. They are.
God, you're so lucky.
I am. You know what? I am very fortunate, and they're sort of having a teenage period now, where they're taking a road trip.
Oh God.
87 and 88, rocking down the East Coast.
No, come on.
I'm serious. Hey, they're probably listening to Garbage in the car, rocking those two, having another, I don't know, a second honeymoon type teenage. And it's really exciting to see. It really, really is.
Yeah, that's rad. It's inspiring, right?
Yeah, totally inspiring. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you'll do the same now because you've been shown the way forward by your parents. You'll be kicking up your heels at 90, if you're lucky, God willing.
Oh, and you.
I have been shown the way forward by Mr. and Mrs. Amos. That is how I want to live.
That is living.
It really is.
And from one kind of living to a sort of slightly more unsettling kind of living. This is a conversation between Fred Armisen and Alix Lambert. You know, Fred is one of our great comedians.
Yeah, Fred's best known for his work on Saturday Night Live and, of course, Portlandia.
Yeah. And Fred and Alix have been friends for like 30 years. Alix is this incredible polymath, filmmaker, photographer, writer. She and Fred work on projects from time to time. And there's this one project that she wanted to work on, which was based on a true story from Fred's past about his stepmother. But the interesting thing was that framing this is really challenging because whenever you see Fred on screen, you're thinking, oh, well, this is going to be funny.
Oh, sure. He's one of the few people who, even before they deliver the line, has me laughing.
Yeah. For this, however, as you'll hear in a second, the story itself is far from funny.
So the story is, I have a half-brother who lives in Germany, and he's from East Germany. Well, was East Germany. And my dad had a kid in East Berlin before he had me. And the woman who he had a kid with stayed in East Berlin, an ex-girlfriend, if you will. I stayed in touch with my brother. The wall is up. And they lived through, living in communist East Germany. And when the wall came down, this woman went to what, as many people did, they went to the Stasi.
Your brother's mother.
Yes. And I think a lot of people did this. They were just like, what do you have on me? There's a lot of internal spying. I want to know what exists out there. And they handed over 3 photo album size books of all the information they had on her. And
they're amazing.
They're amazing. She showed it to me. And in it, there are letters she's written.
The thing I remember is you said there's pictures of the inside of her refrigerator.
Yeah. A picture of the inside of her fridge. Someone went in when she wasn't home, opened the fridge, took a picture. She was showing this to me, kind of laughing and kind of going, I can't believe this happened to me. And then there was one page that was a map of her neighbors and the street that she lived on and who were informants. And it was everybody around her.
So that, to me, is the heartbreaking part.
Yeah.
It's completely heartbreaking. It's like all your friends are informing on you, right?
She seemed the most hurt by that.
Yeah, of course.
Because
That's like everybody you trust. It's like if I found out tomorrow, you were like,
Yeah.
FBI, let me tell you what Alex is up to.
Yeah, everybody.
Some really, really sinister stuff there. I recorded this episode backstage at 30 Rock. Fred was on lunch break from his job as band leader for Seth Meyers. And as he told Alex the story, my jaw just dropped further and further, Nick.
Yeah, there's some incredible things that they talk about in that conversation. I remember I was trudging around Sundance listening to that and editing it, and just like, this stuff is so good. So go back and check out that episode. It's well worth your time.
Yeah.
Talking of which, a recent episode that is well worth your time. Ben Lee and John Cryer.
This is from February of this year?
This is a newie, but a goodie. This is a really nice little moment where Ben talks about his mother and the role that she played in instead of helping him become the artist he is today. When he was a teenager, he was this huge star.
Back home in Australia.
Yeah, not like a pop idol, but he's kind of like the Conor Oberst of Australia. And he had this decision to make about the course that his career was going to take. And when he needed her, his mother was there.
Let's check it out.
I remember for me when I was 18 or 19, my friends were all going to university from high school. And I started at 14. I'd already made albums, toured, like I had a thing going, you know. And I was still under the illusion that I was going to go to university with all my friends and do music the way I'd done it through school, like in summer breaks. And I remember the timing was not working out with making the record. I wanted to make this album that became this record, Breathing Tornadoes, right before I started university in Australia. And it just didn't work, the timing. And I was having a huge amount of anxiety about it because it was interrupting. The idea that I'd have to make a choice totally interrupted the illusion that I could do everything. And I remember I called my mom and I was like, because a lot of it's about family and I called my mom and I said, it's not working out. They want me to make the album when everyone's going to uni. And she said, you know what? You can go to university anytime. Make the album. And we can all look back and say there's a lot of problems in our families. You know, there's a lot of I think every single person was parented in a subpar way, one way or another. But that moment, the permission my mum gave me to not have guilt about making a proper choice at 18, I'm grateful for to this day.
Another inspiring mother, Nick.
Another inspiring mother.
Some mothers are more inspiring than others.
Is that a Smiths song?
Oh, maybe. Some girls' mothers
are more inspiring than other girls' mothers.
Yes. Ben Lee and John Cryer there on the Talkhouse Podcast. Make sure to check out that full episode to hear all about B is for beer.
B is for beer, mate.
Nick, this next clip comes from what actually was the first live Talkhouse event.
Yeah, our first ever live podcast event, which was recorded at DCTV.
Back in 2014.
Back in 2014, yeah. It's a great conversation between documentary filmmakers Martha Shane and Tracy Drozd-Trigos about Tracy's movie Rich Hill, which is about these three boys coming of age in impoverished small-town America. And Martha asks her about the role that motherhood played in how she approached making the film and also how the film affected her as a mother.
So you're a mom, as I know, but only because you've written publicly about what it's like to be a mom and a filmmaker, written very eloquently about it. And so I guess I'm curious, what were your relationships with these young kids at this time? How did that sort of ultimately affect the way you see your own kids and the way you relate to your own kids? Did it have an impact in that way?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I learned a lot from Andrew and Harley and Apache. I mean, I think Andrew is incredibly optimistic, and there's something there that is amazing. And Harley has this great sense of humor and could, crack me up when I least expected it. And I think Apache, I was always, struck by his sense of, forgiveness and being willing to forgive some really hard stuff. And still love as deeply as he did. You know, and with my own family, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think that my kids, I sometimes miss them more when I'm with these guys, and I see the connections with their own families, and I think about, well, you know, think about the choices that I'm making, and that I'm not there, and that I'm with somebody else's kids and not my own kids, and what kind of person am I? I mean, I do go back to my kids and reconnect with them, so there's that. But, you know, there's always a little bit of guilt and sadness to not be with them when I'm on the road. So,
yeah. Do you think it helped as far as relating to young people that you did have kids, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it helped relating to the moms, certainly. I mean, there's an experience there of having children and also having the stresses of having children, particularly young children. And so there was a bond that I feel like, you know, I had with Andrew's mom and with all the moms. So, and, you know, I think I feel a little bit motherly towards the boys in the film as well. I probably give too much advice. And, you know, we were much more involved than one might think in seeing the film. I mean, we really wanted them to be the authors of their story and to not have it be about us going to make a film. And it was going to be their story. But, you know, that didn't mean that we didn't talk to them a lot when the camera wasn't rolling, or, you know, offer advice. And that doesn't mean that our relationship also stops now that the film is over.
I really like that conversation. And I think it's interesting to hear Tracy talk about a filmmaker being in the role of a mother. And in our last clip, we have somebody who is not a filmmaker, but is very, very much a real mother.
Some audio that never actually appeared on the show before.
It's appeared on the website, but not on the show. And this is a personal treat for me.
This is some funny stuff.
It is incredibly funny. It is Julia Pott's mother delivering a review of the movie Get Out for Julia. Julia was not there.
And this is not set up at all. Like, nobody asked for this review.
No.
This was not a commissioned piece.
This is not a commissioned piece. This is just, you know, Julia's mother leaves hilarious voicemails. And Julia just emailed me one day and she was like, you should really hear what my mom said about Get Out. And I was like, can I please have this? And she said yes. And so I feel like this is a perfect culmination of our celebration of mothers and motherhood.
Let's do it.
At the end of your message, press 1.
Hello, my darling girl. Yes, you were right. I wasn't available to talk. Normally I am, because Graham Norton is back with his new shows, and he's even got Warren Beatty on her. That was last night, talking about the Oscars. But I had to just record it because I was blitzed. You know, I had to self-medicate with 2 glasses of wine last night because, it being Good Friday, we managed to see Get Out! Oh, my God. I haven't been that screamingly vocal in a movie theater and frightened to death in a long time. And I can tell you, I was the only one screaming. A lot of people were laughing. I don't know why. Me, I guess. But it was just so, what's the word? Upsetting in terms of wrong-footing you. You know, you were accepting the scene and going along with it. The actor was charming in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, what happened? Ah! You know, it was like I was like, ah, no, oh! And at the end, oh my God, with that absolutely shockingly violent ending, to the film. Really, I was yelling, kill him, punch him. I was couldn't bear it anymore. I was just driven by the whole film. It was brilliantly done, I have to say. Even though Alice said it got like 9 Rotten Tomatoes or something, it was meticulously put together. I mean, you could see how they were influenced by a lot of other films like Stepford Wives. And there's an old silent movie by Alfred Hitchcock about a serial killer and the landlady. And it's made in the early 1920s. when he was apprenticing, really. And it's about the man upstairs who's very strange, pacing back and forth. And the way the people downstairs, the landlady, her daughter, and the daughter's boyfriend, are looking up, and they're hearing him pacing and almost following him with their eyes, because the chandelier, every time he walks, is very subtly swaying back and forth, until finally the ceiling becomes like a glass ceiling, that they can see him pacing back and forth with this kind of neurotic intentionality. And that was very much a scene when they were all downstairs listening and looking upstairs and listening to him walk back and forth and back and forth, and they were totally silent at the party. But I mean, I must say the actors were fantastic, because they had such close-ups on their faces, you know, like portraits hanging on a wall in a gallery or in a hallway. That's another steal, which is that one about the Alicia Vikander's movie, where she's a robot-style morph. You know, she's half human, half machine. And I forget, Ex Machina. And that definitely, you felt when he was killed at the end by her, you felt that long gallery, like he was killing the father in that long gallery in the movie last night of Get Out! I can't say it softly, right? It's such an order. It's such a warning. And they just had such feelings that they were showing on their faces, that you know, and the tears coming down, and almost seemingly saying things against their will, you know, like their nature was fighting what they were saying, because they had been implanted into another human being. It was really fantastic. But I tell you, anybody who told me that I was telling Alex, it's hysterical, it's about liberal white people, you know, totally not what I expected. And I did think, in a strange way, that
and that's the 4-minute mark, Nick.
Yep, here's 4 minutes, and then your voicemail just cuts off. But thank you, Julia Pop. Thank you, Julia's mother.
Thank you both.
And I gotta say, there is also, if you are now a fan of Julia's mother, as by God you should be, you should definitely check out a piece that Julia wrote about her mother's advice for her that time she went to the Academy Awards. It is priceless.
You can also head over to talkhouse.com/tag/motherhood for some great written pieces on the subject by artists like Tift Merritt, writing about the difficulties of being a touring musician and a mother.
We have Susanna Nicurelli, a piece about motherhood written while she was about to go into labor.
Wow.
Dramatic.
And Vashti Anderson.
A fantastic Talkhouse piece about the challenges of breast pumping at a film festival.
Serious business.
And while I'm here, we should definitely give a shout out to Nathan Silver's video essay, which he did for Talkhouse, called The Essence of Agony, about his working relationship with his mother. It's terrific, and also, rather wonderfully, has had a sort of spiritual sequel of sorts. A video series he did for Topic called Cutting My Mother, which came out in this past week.
Listeners, thank you so much for joining us here on the Talkhouse Podcast for this special Mother's Day 250th episode edition. Nick, you and I wanted to dedicate today's show to our mothers.
Yeah, this is for my mother and for your mother.
And listeners, we hope you have a fantastic Mother's Day with whoever the mother or maternal person in your life is.
Yeah, have a special day.
We wish you the best. Till next week, I'm Elia Einhorn.
I'm Nick Dawson.
Peace. And mothers,